In our headlines on this Thursday, February 5th, here is South Korea. Efforts to reverse the threat of higher U.S. tariffs of 25% on South Korea continue, as an agreement has yet to be reached between officials here and their American counterparts. Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping talk on the phone on Wednesday and touch upon a wide array of topics, including trade, Tehran, and Taiwan. Meanwhile, the last nuclear weapons control treaty between the U.S. and Russia, signed in 2010, designed to prevent a potential nuclear warfare, expires on this Thursday, fueling fresh fears of a rampant arms race. We start with remarks by Trade Minister Yeo upon arrival at the airport here from the U.S., where he sought to convey South Korea's commitment to meeting the terms of its trade deal with the U.S. Our Ian Jin starts us off.
Upon returning from a week-long trip to Washington, South Korea's Trade Minister Yeo said that he did not meet U.S. Trade Representative Chief Jamieson Greer in person, but that South Korea will remain in close consultations to reach a resolution before the Trump administration formalizes proposed tariff hikes. Speaking to reporters at Incheon Airport Thursday morning, Yeo highlighted the importance of whether the U.S. will immediately raise tariffs upon issuing a federal register or whether there would be a grace period of about 1 to 2 months. During his trip, Yeo met with the deputy U.S. Trade Representative and around 20 U.S. lawmakers to reaffirm Seoul's commitment to passing the bill that implements a bilateral trade deal. He stressed that Seoul is ready to faithfully and swiftly implement the tariff agreement, arguing that an immediate tariff increase would be inappropriate given South Korea's good faith efforts. Meanwhile, he welcomed the rival party's decision Wednesday to establish a special committee to advance the U.S. investment bill within a month, saying it would help resolve the ongoing trade tensions with the U.S. Yeo's trip came after President Trump made a surprise announcement on January 26th of a plan to raise reciprocal tariffs and auto duties on South Korea back to 25%. This was largely based on perceptions that delays in National Assembly deliberations on enacting the bilateral trade agreement raised doubts about South Korea's willingness. The bilateral trade deal, authorizing a $350 billion investment in the U.S., had lowered tariffs to 15%. Trade is crucial to the South Korean economy, where exports are equivalent to about 40% of GDP, with the U.S. as its second largest market. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, at a ministerial meeting in Washington, D.C. this past Wednesday, attended by Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance called for a critical minerals trading bloc. Our Moon Hye-ryeon has details.
The United States has formally moved to rally allies into a new trade bloc aimed at reshaping global supply chains for critical minerals, resources essential to defense systems and advanced industries, and has invited South Korea to take part. The initiative was unveiled on Wednesday at a ministerial-level meeting in Washington, where U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance announced plans to establish what he called a critical minerals trading bloc, designed to diversify supply chains and reduce over-reliance on any single country. Vance said that while much attention is paid to the digital and high-tech economy, growth ultimately depends on tangible resources.
There's no realer thing than critical minerals. And I think a lot of us have learned the hard way, in some ways, over the last year, how much our economies depend on these critical minerals.
At the core of the proposal is a preferential trade zone for allies and partners, featuring price floors for critical minerals. Under the plan, benchmark prices would be set at each stage of production to reflect what U.S. officials describe as fair market value, with adjustable tariffs acting as a backstop against external shocks. The meeting was attended by South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun alongside officials from Australia, India, and Japan. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States is seeking to collaborate with 55 partner countries on what has been dubbed the New Forge Initiative, noting that many have already signed on. He warned that global supply chains for critical minerals are heavily concentrated in the hands of one country, leaving them vulnerable to geopolitical leverage and disruptions ranging from political instability to pandemics. The State Department also said South Korea will serve as chair of the Forge Initiative through June, building on its leadership role in the Mineral Security Partnership, or MSP. Rubio thanked South Korea for filling a leadership gap ahead of Forge's launch. noting that Seoul played a leading role in the MSP, a multilateral partnership involving 16 countries and the European Union aimed at strengthening global critical mineral supply chains. The push underscores how critical minerals are increasingly viewed not just as commodities but as strategic assets, central to economic growth, industrial competitiveness, and national security. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Also on the international front, the heads of the U.S. and China spoke on the phone on Wednesday and reportedly touched upon trade, Taiwan and Tehran. Our Isingja covers that conversation.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he held a long and thorough and positive phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday, covering issues from trade to global security in talks that could set the stage for his planned visit to Beijing in April. In a post on Truth Social on the same day, President Trump said the two leaders discussed the war in Ukraine, the situation in Iran, and Taiwan. He noted Taiwan had not come up during their first in-person meeting in South Korea late last year, suggesting it could become a key topic in upcoming talks. China's foreign ministry confirmed that Taiwan was discussed and underscored the sensitivity of the topic. Beijing described Taiwan as the most important issue in China-U.S. relations, tied to China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It also urged Washington to handle arms sales to Taiwan with caution. At the same time, China signaled it remains open to dialogue. In its statement, Beijing expressed hope that 2026 could be a year of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, while warning that China has its own concerns and will match words with actions. On trade, President Trump said China reaffirmed plans to buy more U.S. energy and agricultural products. He pointed to possible increases in soybean purchases to as much as 20 million tons in the current season, along with discussions on airplane deliveries. Calling his relationship with Xi extremely good, Trump said both sides recognize the importance of stable ties and predicted positive results over the next 3 years. The call marks their first since late November and comes as the two powers balance strategic rivalry with deep economic links. It also raises the possibility that Trump's April trip to China could create diplomatic openings on North Korea, though it is unclear whether Pyongyang is ready to engage. Meanwhile, Xi and Russian President Vladimir Putin recently held a separate video call focused on strengthening cooperation, maintaining strategic stability, and coordinating their approach to the United States. The two leaders have continued to highlight their partnership amid tensions with the West, signaling that Beijing and Moscow intend to keep close communication on security and geopolitical issues. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And speaking of Moscow, a nuclear weapons control treaty that it signed with Washington back in 2010 expires on this Thursday, fueling fresh fears of a rampant arms race. Our Cho Young-eun explains.
The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty had been the last remaining pillar of the nuclear arms control between Washington and Moscow. Its expiration leaves the world's two largest nuclear powers without any binding limits on their nuclear stockpiles for the first time in more than 50 years. Most recently signed in 2010, the treaty kept deployed nuclear warheads at 1,550 each, also containing provisions for mutual inspections aimed to prevent catastrophic nuclear conflicts. Dialogue between Washington and Moscow came to a pause following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. While Russian President Vladimir Putin also proposed a one-year extension of the treaty, U.S. President Donald Trump insisted that any future nuclear arms agreements must include China, citing its rapidly expanding nuclear arsenal. More recently, in January, according to the New York Times, Trump has downplayed concerns over the treaty's expiration. United Nations Security General Antonio Guterres has warned that the treaty's expiration is a grave moment for international peace and security, urging both nations to resume negotiations without delay. He called for a new framework that restores verifiable limits, reduces risk, and strengthens global security. Earlier, Pope Leo XIV also appealed to both sides to renew the treaty, emphasizing the urgent need to prevent a renewed arms race. Its end also marks the collapse of decades of arms control cooperation that helped ease Cold War tensions, raising fresh fears of a renewed global arms race. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News.
Some say appearances are deceptive. Others insist a picture is worth 1,000 words. All this being said, pundits wonder whether North Korea's Kim Jong-un will have by his side his daughter Kim Jong-un at the upcoming ruling party Congress. And if she is there, debate remains over her future role. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is expected to take centre stage at the Workers' Party Congress, the regime's biggest political event in 5 years. But attention may also turn to his young daughter Kim Jong-un if she's waiting in the wings, as questions grow about her future role. Kim Jong-un first appeared publicly in November 2022, accompanying her father at an intercontinental ballistic missile launch. Cited as beloved and respected child by state media, she looks to be in her early teens. Succession rumours have swirled, but she had only appeared on a small number of occasions until this year. In January, state media showed Kim Jong-un alongside her father during a New Year visit to the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where the embalmed bodies of North Korea's first and second leaders lie in state.
The images show Kim Jong-un positioned at the center, where Kim Jong-un should have been standing, signaling her potential future succession.
Since then, her media exposure has been frequent, raising speculation that she might attend the upcoming Workers' Party Congress. It's where North Korea sets its political line and reshapes its leadership structure.
If she attends, there's a strong chance she could be elected to a second command position, such as the party's first secretary or vice chair of the Central Military Commission.
Kim Jong-un himself was first brought into public view through party appointments in 2010, years before his leadership was formally consolidated at the 2016 Party Congress. Experts say Kim Jong-un may be paving the way for his daughter to take over by easing her position into the system.
Just as North Korea created the first secretary role in 2021 without public disclosure, it is also possible that even if Kim Jong-un is appointed to a second-in-command role, this could be classified for the time being.
But structural changes could provide a hint.
Also, at a party congress, there are major reshuffles, not only at the top, but also among mid-level cadres. If Kim Jong-un emerges as a successor, a large-scale generational turnover is likely to follow, along with increased advancement of female cadres.
There are differing views on Kim Jong-un's role, with some analysts arguing that she may never succeed her father. But in North Korea, where optics are tightly managed, any exposure at the party congress wouldn't be accidental. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The benchmark cost per index plunged over 3.8% on this Thursday, weighed down by AI and chip valuation concerns. Now, following a record performance the day prior, the index opened down over 2% and extended losses throughout the day's trade. Foreigners and institutions led the aggressive sell-off, while retail investors stepped in to cushion the fall. Electronics and semiconductors took the biggest hit. Samsung Electronics sank 5.8%, while SK Hynix surrendered 6.4%. President Lee Jae-myung says science and technology are key to South Korea's competitiveness. The statement was shared on this Thursday at the Blue House, where he hosted recipients of the Presidential Science Scholarship and winners of international science competitions. President Lee pledged to promote government support beyond short-term scholarships to cover researchers throughout their careers. He also proposed expanding alternative military service options for those studying science and technology. Here in South Korea, men subject to mandatory military service who hold a master's or doctoral degree in these fields may fulfill their duty by working as researchers at designated institutions for 3 years. Some humanoid robots are now stepping out of labs and into the shelves of one store here in Seoul. My colleague Kim Do-yeon went shopping.
A robot stands at the entrance greeting customers. It is a familiar sight for those who follow the Consumer Electronics Show, but this is not Las Vegas. It is a local electronics retailer here in Seoul. Starting this week, the humanoid model and a robotic dog have gone on sale. The human robot carries a price tag of 31 million won, or roughly $21,500.
I saw the exhibition passing by and thought I could see the ones that I saw on CES videos. From seeing them in real life, I feel like the future of having them at home and in our daily lives is not far off. I'm excited for further improvements from here.
Manufactured by Unitree, a Chinese robotics firm, these models were released here almost simultaneously with their launch in China. While they currently lack integrated AI features and require remote operation, the swift release signals the company's aggressive strategy to secure a foothold in the Korean market. It also highlights the growing interest in the humanoid robot market. This store has dedicated a specialized zone for the robots, the first of its kind in the country. 14 different models are on display, ranging from AI-powered elderly care assistants to educational companions. These smaller robots are designed for your desk and emotional exchanges. There are some physical exchanges as well. For example, they like to be petted. So make sure you don't cross the line, because if you hit them, they might strike back. A simpler alternative is the Sense Robot, an automated Go player. Priced at over 1.3 million won, it is a premium device, particularly when digital versions are available at little to no cost. However, it offers a tactile experience that screens cannot mimic.
Playing on computers, you have to move the mouse, but with this, you actually use stones. This makes it feel real and more fun than playing virtually.
Retailer eMart reports that the displays have already generated sales, including one of the quadruped units. However, the company states the primary objective is not immediate revenue, but to familiarize consumers with the technology that will soon become part of daily life. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, come mid-March, the air at Gwanghwamun Square will be electric to say the least as BTS launches its comeback show. Our culture correspondent Park Gonu has a preview.
After years on the world's biggest stage, 7 voices are returning to where their story began. The kings of K-pop, BTS, are coming back with Arirang, a live comeback show at one of Korea's most symbolic sites, Gwanghwamun Square in central Seoul. According to Seoul city officials and industry insiders, the show's host has applied to use not only the square, but also the inner grounds of Gyeongbokgung Palace. That has fueled speculation that BTS may make a ceremonial walk along the so-called King's Road, starting at Keunjeongmun Gate, passing through Hungnaemun, the palace's second gate, and emerging through the 3 doors of Gwanghwamun before stepping onto the plaza where the main stage is expected to be built. Officials say discussions are still underway on whether the opening will take place live or as a pre-recorded sequence. Following the opening, all 7 members are set to perform together in front of armies from around the world, joined by dancers and the Arirang Gugak Group, a traditional Korean music ensemble. With their new album titled Arirang, Korea's most iconic folk song, the decision to begin full group promotions at this site carries special meaning. The location is both a historic landmark and a modern symbol of Korea, known for major protests and World Cup fan parks. Organizers are planning to accommodate around 15,000 people on site, with additional crowds expected nearby, including at Seoul Plaza, where people even without tickets can watch through large screens installed. Including nearby areas, officials estimate that up to 200,000 people could gather. With those numbers in mind, the Seoul Metropolitan Government held a safety meeting on Wednesday, preparing crowd control, emergency access routes, traffic plans, and multilingual safety messages. The show will also be live-streamed worldwide on Netflix. March 21st at 8 p.m., just one day after the album's release, BTS will make their return on a site that was once reserved for kings, but is now shared with the world. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
It felt nice to be outside today without a heavy winter jacket, even though the air quality was far from ideal. The dust levels rose as the day went on, with additional dust moving in from overseas, meaning we could be seeing very bad levels at times through tonight. And after almost spring-like warmth, we need to brace for a big change now. Temperatures will be dipping down to -8 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning, and it's going to stay freezing cold through the weekend. In fact, a cold wave advisory has been issued in the capital area, and Daegu will be waking up to a low of -2 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to -3 degrees Celsius, nearly 10 degrees lower than this afternoon, and Daegu gets up to 5 degrees. Be sure to bundle up again for tomorrow's morning commute. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session.